Here's a question that most people in the church have never been asked. When was the last time money came into your life that wasn't directly connected to you trading your hours for it? Think about that for a second. Not a gift, not a windfall, not something random. Money that arrived because of a system you built, an asset you own, a product you created, a relationship you leveraged, something that keeps working after you stop working. For most American Christians, the honest answer is never, or not in a meaningful way, or not in a way they intentionally designed. And here is what makes that answer so significant. It is not because passive income is a modern concept that the Bible didn't anticipate. It is because the biblical framework for building income that works while you sleep is one of the most developed economic ideas in all of Scripture, and one of the least taught in any church in America. Solomon built it. Joseph executed it at national scale. The woman of Proverbs 31 lived it. The master in the parable of the talents demanded it of his servants. Money working independently of your hours is not a luxury for the financially sophisticated. It is the biblical baseline for what faithful stewardship produces over time. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 biblical frameworks for generating income while you sleep, mapped directly onto what is actually possible in the American economic landscape right now. Not theory, not inspiration, a blueprint. Stay until the end, because the 7th framework is the one that requires the least capital, the least experience, and the least time to start. And it's the one that most people already have what they need for without realizing it. There is one verse I need to anchor everything in before we go any further. Ecclesiastes 5:12. The sleep of a laborer is sweet, whether they eat little or much. But as for the rich, their abundance permits them no sleep. Solomon is not praising the laborer who can only sleep well because they're exhausted. He's diagnosing a structural problem. The person who only earns through direct labor is economically secure only as long as they can keep laboring. The moment they stop, through illness, injury, age, or circumstance, the income stops with them. And the rich person who cannot sleep despite their abundance, Solomon is diagnosing a different structural problem. Wealth without systems produces anxiety, not freedom. What Solomon is pointing toward, through the whole body of Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, is a third category. The wise steward, the person who works with intention, builds systems that produce independently, and creates income streams that operate beyond their personal presence. That is the blueprint. Write in the comments, I want my money working while I sleep. Not as a slogan, as a declaration of intention toward a different kind of financial life. The first framework, real property that produces income. Proverbs 31:16. She considers a field and buys it. Out of her earnings, she plants a vineyard. 3 verbs. The complete philosophy of productive real estate ownership. She considers. She evaluates before she commits. She looks at the numbers. What will this field produce? What will it cost to maintain? What is the return on the capital she will deploy? She buys, she acts. Analysis converts to decision. The evaluation leads somewhere. She plants a vineyard. She activates the asset. The field is not acquired to be held passively. It is acquired to be made productive. That sequence, evaluate, acquire, activate, is the complete real estate investment framework. Written in Proverbs, 3,000 years old, and it applies directly to the American real estate market in ways that most people have never connected to this text. Real estate that generates income while you sleep is not a starting point that requires wealth. It is often a starting point that creates wealth from what you already have. The house you live in with a basement apartment that could generate rent. The vacation property that sits empty 45 weeks per year while you pay carrying costs on it. The parking space in a building near a transit hub that you could list on Spot Hero or ParkWiz. The property you inherited from a parent or grandparent that has been sitting undeveloped for years because nobody in the family knew what to do with it. According to the Urban Land Institute, approximately 40% of American single-family homeowners have at least one underutilized space on their property: a garage, a basement, an ADU-eligible lot that could generate rental income without acquiring any new real estate. 40%. That is tens of millions of households sitting on unused income-producing potential right now. In Charlotte, a couple named James and Patricia had owned their home for 14 years. The finished basement had been used as a playroom when the kids were young. The kids were now in college. The basement sat empty, used 3 or 4 times per year when the kids came home. A neighbor suggested they convert it to a long-term rental. They were hesitant. Giving up their space felt significant. They researched the local market. A furnished basement unit near their neighborhood could rent for $150 to $400 per month. They made the decision. They listed it. Their first tenant, a traveling healthcare worker on a 6-month contract assignment, moved in within 3 weeks. $150 per month, $15,000 per year from a space they weren't using. That income changed the math of their retirement planning in a material way. The woman of Proverbs 31 considered a field. James and Patricia considered a basement. The principle is exactly the same. The instruction map. First step, inventory every property and space you control with genuinely new eyes. Don't look at it the way you've always looked at it. Look at it as a potential income-producing asset. Every square foot that exists and isn't generating income is an opportunity you are currently paying for without any return. Second step, research the rental market for each potential space in your specific location. Long-term residential rental using Zillow Rental Manager or Rentometer. Short-term rental potential using AirDNA. Storage rental potential using Neighbor.com. Parking income potential using Spot Hero, ParkWiz, or Neighbor. The data exists. Use it before making any investment in upgrading the space. Third step, start with the space that requires the minimum improvement to become rentable. The goal of the first income-generating property is not to build the nicest rental in your market. It is to generate the first dollar of income from an asset you already control, and then use that income to improve the asset over time. Fourth step, when you are ready to acquire, run the actual numbers. Monthly gross rental income, minus mortgage or carrying cost, minus insurance, minus property taxes, minus a realistic maintenance reserve, minus vacancy allowance. What remains is your actual cash flow. Only a positive number justifies the acquisition. Fifth step, use the income from the first property to fund the next step. The woman of Proverbs 31 planted the vineyard from the earnings of her hands, not from borrowed capital. The cycle of reinvestment from existing income into the next asset is the mechanism by which real estate wealth compounds over time. The second framework, money deployed at interest, lending what you have earned. Proverbs 13:11. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money, little by little, makes it grow. The principle is compound accumulation. Small, consistent, honest gathering, over time, produces growth that outpaces anything that came quickly or easily. And the modern implementation of this principle in the American financial system is one of the most accessible and most underutilized wealth-building tools available to ordinary people. When you invest money in an instrument that pays interest or dividends, a high-yield savings account, a treasury note, a bond, a dividend-paying stock, a money market fund, you are deploying your money as a working asset. Your capital is doing a job, generating a return, without any additional labor from you. And right now, in the United States, the interest rate environment has made fixed income instruments more attractive than they have been in 15 years. High-yield savings accounts at institutions like Marcus, by Goldman Sachs, Ally, or SoFi are currently offering annual percentage yield between 4.5% and 5.1%, depending on the product and current federal funds rate environment. That means $50,000 in a high-yield savings account is generating approximately $2,050 to $2,250 per year in interest income, completely passively, with FDIC insurance up to $250,000, with full liquidity. Most Americans have their savings sitting in traditional bank accounts, earning 0.01% to 0.06% annually, effectively earning nothing, simply because they have never made the decision to move it. The gap between those two numbers, 0.06% and 4.9%, on a $50,000 balance is approximately $2,120 per year in income that is being left uncollected. Treasury bills and Treasury notes, available directly through treasurydirect.gov without any brokerage fees, are currently yielding between 4.3% and 5.0% at various maturities, with the full faith and credit of the United States government behind them. Series 1 savings bonds, also available through treasurydirect.gov, provide inflation-indexed returns that protect purchasing power in inflationary environments. These are not exotic financial instruments. They are the most conservative, most accessible, most government-guaranteed income-producing assets in American financial markets. And they work while you sleep. The instruction map. First step. If you have savings in a traditional bank account earning less than 1% annually, open a high-yield savings account this week. The process takes 15 minutes online, and the transfer can happen within 1 to 3 business days. There is no reason to continue leaving that income uncollected. Second step, research treasurydirect.gov for direct purchases of Treasury bills and notes at current yields. You are buying debt instruments directly from the U.S. government. No broker, no fee, no intermediary. The minimum purchase is $100. Third step, automate a recurring transfer to your interest-bearing account. Set up an automatic weekly or bi-weekly transfer, even if the amount is modest, that moves before you have the opportunity to spend it. What is automated happens. What depends on willpower in the moment often doesn't. Fourth step, reinvest the interest earned rather than withdrawing it. This is where compound growth actually operates. Interest-earning interest, accumulated over time, produces outcomes that are qualitatively different from simple interest on a fixed principal. Leave it alone. Let it compound. Fifth step, as the balance grows, ladder your maturities. Rather than putting everything in a single instrument at a single maturity, spread across short-term, medium-term, and longer-term instruments. This provides consistent liquidity at each maturity while capturing higher rates on longer duration holdings. The third framework, ownership in diversified market indexes, planting across many fields. Ecclesiastes 11:2. Invest in 7 ventures, yes, in 8. You do not know what disaster may come upon the land. This is biblical diversification. Written 2,500 years before modern portfolio theory, articulated the same principle academically. You cannot know which venture will fail. Therefore, spread your planting. Because the soil you bet everything on might be the one that doesn't produce. The modern implementation of this principle, the instrument that most purely captures it in its accessible, low-cost, diversified form, is the broad market index fund. When you invest in a fund that tracks the S&P 500, you are buying fractional ownership in 500 of the largest American companies simultaneously. You are not betting on any individual company's success or failure. You are betting on the productive capacity of the American economy as a whole, across multiple sectors, multiple industries, multiple business models. The data on this approach is not ambiguous. The S&P 500 has produced an average annual total return of approximately 10.7% over the past 50 years, according to Standard & Poor's historical data. $1 invested in 1974 in a fund tracking the S&P 500 would be worth approximately $150 today. Not because every single year was positive. The index fell nearly 50% in 2008-2009. It fell nearly 34% in 34 days in early 2020. There have been multiple bear markets, recessions, and periods of sustained decline in that 50-year record, and yet 10.7% per year for 50 years. Because the consistent investor, who kept buying through every drawdown, who did not panic sell when the market fell, who simply kept planting in the morning and in the evening without knowing which season would be the productive one. That investor captured the full return. Vanguard VTSX, Fidelity FZ-ROX, Schwab's SWTSX. These are total market index funds with expense ratios below 0.05%, some literally zero, that track the entire U.S. stock market. They are available in most employer 401k plans, in IRAs, and in taxable brokerage accounts. This is the most passive form of productive asset ownership available to any American with any level of investable capital. It works while you sleep. It worked through the Great Recession. It worked through COVID. It will work through whatever comes next, if you stay invested. The instruction map. First step. If your employer offers a 401k with an employer match, and you are not contributing enough to capture the full match, stop everything else and fix that today. Employer matching is a 50% to 100% immediate return on your contribution, depending on the match structure. It is the single highest return financial action available to a working American, and it requires no investment skill whatsoever. Second step, open a Roth IRA if you qualify based on income and haven't already. In 2025, the contribution limit is $7,000 for those under 50 and $8,000 for those 50 and older. Roth growth is tax-free at withdrawal, meaning every dollar of compound growth over 30 years comes out at retirement with no tax obligation. Third step, inside your 401k and IRA, select the lowest cost broad market index fund available. Look for expense ratios below 0.10%. The fund name should contain words like index, total market, S&P 500, or Vanguard, Fidelity, cease Schwab. Avoid actively managed funds with expense ratios above 0.50%. The research is clear that active management does not consistently outperform passive indexing at that cost differential. Fourth step, invest a fixed amount consistently every month, regardless of what the market is doing. This practice, dollar cost averaging, automatically purchases more shares when prices are low and fewer when prices are high. It removes the need to time the market, which is a game that academic research shows almost no one wins consistently over time. Fifth step, do not look at your investment account balance more than quarterly. This is not a suggestion. It is a risk management instruction. The investor who monitors their portfolio daily makes an average of 3 times more emotional trading decisions than the investor who reviews quarterly. Emotional trading decisions destroy long-term returns. Set it up. Look at it quarterly. Leave it alone. The fourth framework, A business built to operate without its owner. Genesis 41:40-41. You shall be in charge of my palace, and all my people are to submit to your orders. Only with respect to the throne will I be greater than you. So Pharaoh said to Joseph, I hereby put you in charge of the whole land of Egypt. Joseph was not installed as the person who personally managed every granary transaction in Egypt. He was installed as the person who built and oversaw the system that managed every granary transaction in Egypt. There is a profound difference. The person who manages every transaction is capped by their personal hours and personal presence. The system that manages every transaction operates at whatever scale the system is designed for. Joseph built the latter, not the former. And that distinction between building a job for yourself and building a business that operates is the difference between self-employment and real entrepreneurship. Self-employment trades one employer for many clients. You are still trading hours for money. The business stops when you stop. A business that operates without its owner generates income, whether the owner is in the building or not. It has documented processes, trained people, reliable systems, and a customer base that is attached to the brand rather than the individual. According to the Small Business Administration, less than 15% of American small businesses ever reach a scale where they can operate meaningfully without the owner's daily presence. The primary reason is not lack of revenue. It is lack of systems and processes that allow delegation. In Sacramento, a woman named Denise had been running a home cleaning service for 6 years. She had 7 clients and did every cleaning herself. She was earning well, but she was capped. Her income was directly limited by how many hours she could physically work. When she was sick, she had no income. When she wanted vacation, she had no income. She spent 3 months documenting every single process in her business: the cleaning sequence, the client communication protocol, the supply ordering system, the quality check procedure. She hired 2 part-time cleaners using her document processes to train them. She transitioned herself out of the cleaning role and into the client acquisition and quality oversight role. In her first year operating this way, her revenue grew by 80% because she was no longer the constraint on the business's capacity. She now earns income from the business every day the team works, whether she is in those houses or not. Joseph managed Egypt. Denise manages a team. The principle is the same. The instruction map. First step, honestly assess whether you currently have a business or a self-employment situation. If the business stops generating revenue when you stop working, you have a job with extra steps, not a business. There's nothing wrong with that as a starting point. But name it accurately so you know what you're building toward. Second step, document every repeatable process in your current operation before you hire anyone. The process documentation is the business. It is the infrastructure that allows other people to deliver your standard without you being present for every delivery. Third step, hire for the operational role you currently fill before you feel ready to hire. The most common reason small business owners never escape the operational trap is that they hire when they are overwhelmed rather than hiring when they have enough revenue to absorb the cost. By the time they're overwhelmed, they don't have the bandwidth to train. Hire slightly before you need to. Fourth step, move yourself into the role that only you can fill once the operational role is covered. For most small business owners, that means client acquisition, strategic decision-making, and quality oversight, not the day-to-day service delivery. Fifth step, measure the business with financial metrics that reflect whether it is operating as a business or a self-employment situation. Revenue per employee, gross margin, net operating income, owner's discretionary time as a percentage of total hours. These numbers tell you whether you have built something that can operate without you or something that will collapse when you are unavailable. The fifth framework, dividend income, collecting your share of corporate profits. Proverbs 3:9-10. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. The vats brimming over with new wine. In the agricultural economy of ancient Israel, a vineyard that had been properly established and tended over years would produce harvests season after season without the original planting effort being repeated. The asset, once mature, generated recurring yield from its established productive capacity. That is exactly the economic profile of dividend-paying equity ownership. When you own shares in established companies that distribute a portion of their profits to shareholders, Johnson & Johnson, Coca-Cola, Realty Income Corporation, Procter & Gamble, utility companies, those companies send you a check every quarter simply because you own a fraction of them. You are not managing their operations. You are not making their business decisions. You are not present in any of their activity. You own. You receive. The dividend aristocrats, a specific category of S&P 500 companies that have increased their dividend payment every year for at least 25 consecutive years, represent the most consistent record of shareholder return in American financial markets. Corporations like Coca-Cola have paid increasing dividends without interruption for 61 consecutive years. Johnson & Johnson for 61 consecutive years. Procter & Gamble for 67 years. Through recessions, financial crises, global pandemics, and wars, these companies continued distributing income to their owners. Realty Income Corporation, a REIT that specializes in commercial real estate and is known as the Monthly Dividend Company, has paid monthly dividends without interruption for over 26 years, with a current yield in the range of 5% to 6% annually. That means $100,000 in realty income produces approximately $5,000 to $6,000 per year in dividend income, delivered monthly automatically without any additional action on the part of the owner, the vats brimming over, while you sleep. The instruction map. First step, research dividend. Aristocrats and dividend kings before selecting individual stocks. These lists represent companies with the longest, most consistent records of dividend payment and growth, the established vineyards of the equity market. Second step, consider starting with dividend-focused ETFs rather than individual stocks. Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF, VIG, Schwab U.S. Dividend Equity ETF, SCHD, or iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF, DGRO, provide diversified exposure to dozens of dividend-paying companies with a single purchase, dramatically reducing the risk of any single company cutting its dividend. Third step, reinvest dividends automatically in the accumulation phase. DRIP, Dividend Reinvestment Plan, allows each dividend payment to purchase additional shares automatically, compounding your ownership stake over time. The compounding effect of reinvested dividends is responsible for a significant portion of the total long-term return of dividend investing. Fourth step, think in decades when evaluating dividend investments. A stock with a 3.5% current yield that grows its dividend by 6% annually will produce a yield on cost of approximately 11% in 20 years. The income stream that looks modest in year 1 looks transformative in year 20. This is not a strategy for impatience. Fifth step, build your dividend portfolio through consistent recurring purchases, not large, infrequent lump sums. The investor who buys $500 per month for 10 years captures more of the dividend compounding effect and takes on less timing risk than the investor who deploys $60,000 once and waits. The sixth framework, content that keeps working after you create it. Habakkuk 2.2. Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it. Write it down, encode it, make it transmissible. This instruction was given approximately 600 years before the birth of Christ. It is the operational description of what content creators, course builders, and digital publishers do in the 21st century. When you create a piece of content, a video, a podcast episode, a written guide, an online course, a digital product, you are building an asset that transmits your knowledge without your real-time presence, an asset that runs while you are unavailable, an asset that scales beyond what your personal hours could ever deliver, a well-made YouTube video explaining something genuinely useful, financial planning, technical skills, cooking, home repair, fitness, parenting, business operations, can receive hundreds of thousands of views over 5 to 7 years of its life on the platform, generating ad revenue every time it plays without any additional effort after publication. According to Influencer Marketing Hub's 2024 Creator Economy Report, the average YouTube channel with 100,000 subscribers generates between $2,000 and $5,000 per month in ad revenue alone, not counting product sales, sponsorships, or digital product income layered on top. And the channels generating that income are not primarily celebrity creators or entertainment personalities. They are people with specific expertise in specific domains: personal finance, woodworking, gardening, cooking, home renovation, fitness, technology, professional skills, who made the decision to share what they know consistently over time. In Indianapolis, a financial planner named Greg had specialized in retirement planning for self-employed professionals for 12 years. He knew the specific financial challenges of the 1099 worker in a way that generalist financial content creators didn't. He started a YouTube channel specifically addressing that niche. He uploaded one video per week for 8 months before the channel gained real traction. In month 9, a video he had published 3 months earlier suddenly began performing. It had been picked up by the algorithm and was being served to a relevant audience. That single video generated over 80,000 views in its first 6 months of algorithmic distribution. His channel reached 100,000 subscribers in 18 months. Today, his channel generates approximately $3,200 per month in ad revenue. On top of the clients, his content brings to his advisory practice. He creates one video per week. The previous 40-plus videos are working continuously, generating income from views, sending clients to his practice, building his authority in the niche without any additional effort from him. Write it down. Let the herald run. The instruction map. First step. Identify the specific domain of knowledge where your expertise intersects with demonstrated market demand. The more specific the intersection, the faster the traction. Personal finance is a crowded category. Retirement planning for self-employed truck drivers is a specific audience with specific needs and almost no dedicated content serving them. Second step, choose one format and one platform and commit to it for 12 months. The most common failure mode in content creation is starting a podcast, a YouTube channel, an Instagram account, and a newsletter simultaneously, achieving nothing on any of them because the effort is diluted across too many surfaces. Third step, publish on a schedule that you can sustain for at least a year. Quality matters. Consistency matters more. A creator who publishes one video per week for a year outperforms the creator who publishes 5 videos in 1 month and then goes silent on every metric that the algorithm uses to distribute content. Fourth step, build a monetization product before you need it. Know what you will sell to the audience you are building before the audience is large enough to sell to. A digital course, an ebook, a consulting offer, a membership community. When traction arrives, you want to be ready to convert it. Fifth step, treat every piece of content as a long-term asset rather than a short-term performance. The engagement metrics on the day of publication are almost entirely irrelevant to the income that content will generate over the following 3 to 5 years. The creator who evaluates content on day one performance and abandons what didn't perform is systematically destroying their own long-term asset base. Publish, maintain, let it run. The seventh framework, package knowledge, build it once, earn from it indefinitely. 1 Peter 4:10. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. Every gift is a form of grace, and the faithful steward is the one who makes that grace produce more than was originally deposited. The most accessible, most capital efficient, most time-leveraged implementation of this principle in the modern economy is the digital knowledge product. An ebook that is created once and purchased indefinitely. A course that is recorded once and enrolled in continuously. A template or framework or system that is designed once and downloaded by thousands of people who need it. A guide or workbook that addresses a specific, recurring problem that a specific, defined audience consistently faces. Once built, these products generate income independent of your real-time presence. They work while you sleep. They work while you're on vacation. They work while you're at church on Sunday. The online learning market in the United States is projected to reach $166 billion by 2026, according to Statista. Kajabi creators have collectively earned over $6 billion through digital products and courses. Substack hosts more than 3 million paid newsletter subscriptions across its creator ecosystem. These revenues are not primarily generated by celebrities or mainstream influencers. The overwhelming majority of that economic activity is generated by practitioners with genuine expertise in specific domains who decided to package that expertise and make it accessible at scale. The question I want to ask you directly is this: what do you know from years of practice, study, professional experience, or lived experience that someone would genuinely pay to learn? Not what you could theoretically teach. What specific knowledge do you have that a defined, identifiable group of people is actively looking for and having difficulty finding in a form that fully serves their need? Because that is a business, that is passive income, that is grace in various forms. Deployed faithfully, made accessible at scale, earning while you rest. In Boston, a woman named Claire had been a registered dietitian for 14 years, specializing in autoimmune conditions, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, Crohn's disease, Hashimoto's, and the complex relationship between diet, inflammation, and symptom management. She had watched her clients struggle to find accessible, evidence-based nutritional guidance specifically for their conditions, guidance that went beyond generic healthy eating advice and actually addressed the specific inflammatory mechanisms at work in autoimmune disease. She spent 3 months developing a digital course, not a lecture series, but a 12-week guided protocol that walked participants through an elimination and reintroduction process specifically designed for autoimmune conditions. She priced it at $397. In its first 90 days, 219 people enrolled. $86,943 in 90 days from a course she built once. That course is still open for enrollment. It still earns every month. Claire teaches one live Q&A session per month. All other elements are pre-recorded and delivered automatically through her course platform. Her knowledge is working while she sleeps. The instruction map. First step. Define the specific knowledge product as precisely as possible before building it. Not a course about nutrition, but a 12-week guided protocol for autoimmune disease patients seeking evidence-based dietary intervention. The specificity is what creates the match between what you've built and the person searching for exactly that. Second step, validate before you build. And before recording a single lesson or writing a single page of the final product, sell 10 spots in a live version of the same content. A live workshop, a live cohort, a live training. Deliver it live first. Learn what the audience actually needs. Then build the recorded version based on that real-world delivery experience. Third step, price for the transformation, not for the time. A course that reliably produces a specific, valuable outcome in the lives of the people who complete it is worth what that outcome is worth, not what the number of hours of video content suggests. Claire's course is 12 weeks of protocol and 12 months of reference material for $397, a tiny fraction of what dietary consulting for autoimmune conditions costs in private practice. Fourth step, build your marketing infrastructure before you need it. An email list, a presence on one platform, a community where your audience gathers. These are not afterthoughts. They are the distribution mechanism for the product. A great course with no audience is a shelf with no shoppers. Fifth step, commit to improving the product annually based on completion rates and outcome data. The course that was built once and never updated eventually loses relevance and conversion rate. The course that is genuinely improved every year, informed by what students actually experience in the program, retains its conversion rate, commands increasing pricing, and generates compounding income from an expanding catalog of satisfied alumni who refer others. 7 frameworks, 7 ancient blueprints made current. Real property that generates rental income. Fixed income instruments that pay interest while you hold them. Diversified market index ownership that captures the productive capacity of the economy. A business structured to operate without its owner. Dividend income from established profit-sharing companies. Digital content that continues generating views and income long after creation. Packaged knowledge that sells continuously without real-time delivery. Each one is a different expression of the same fundamental principle. The principle that Ecclesiastes 11:6 captured in 2 lines. Sow your seed in the morning, and at evening let your hands not be idle. For you do not know which will succeed, whether this or that, or whether both will do equally well. Plant in the morning, plant in the evening, not knowing which planting will succeed. Because the wise steward does not put all their seed in one field and wait. They distribute. They plant across multiple soils. They create multiple income streams, each one modest perhaps in isolation, that together build a financial position that no single event can entirely destroy. You do not need all 7. You need one framework, validated, built, producing consistently, then a second, then a third. But you need to start somewhere. And you need to start this week. Not when you have more information, not when you feel more ready, not when conditions look more favorable. Ecclesiastes 11:4 is still true. Whoever watches the wind will not plant. Whoever looks at the clouds will not reap. Stop watching the wind. plant something. If this gave you something real to work with, share it with someone who needs to hear it. A friend who has been praying for financial breakthrough. A family member who has been living on a single income stream for too long. Someone in your church who loves God and wants more but hasn't known where to begin. One conversation can start something. Let me pray with you. Father, I thank you that this blueprint was not invented by the modern financial services industry. You authored it. Through Solomon's observation of how prosperity actually works, through Joseph's administration of a national food supply system, through the woman of Proverbs 31 who considered a field and built a vineyard, through the master in the parable who expected his servants to make what they had been given produce. You have always expected us to build, not to wait for everything to arrive, to build with what we have. Speak to every person watching this today. To the one who has a space sitting idle, show them the asset that's sleeping. To the one whose savings account is earning nothing, give them the clarity and the courage to move it to where it can work. To the one who has expertise they've been sitting on, give them the permission they've been waiting for to package it and put it into the world. To the one who built a business that still needs them for every transaction, give them the vision of what a systemized operation looks like, and the discipline to build the documentation that makes it possible. May the seeds they plant this week be the beginning of the financial life they have been praying toward. In Jesus' name, amen. Write in the comments, I plant today so I can harvest while I sleep. Because Solomon designed the blueprint, and the blueprint works. It has worked for 3,000 years. It will work for you.